80, lonely together. He found Livia standing on the piers, facing the sea with a terrible look on her face. Ryan parked his not-so-suspicious black minivan near the old harbor, and quickly looked around for any Killer 7 member. If Livia had brought bodyguards, they hid well. The courier suspected Mortimer lingered nearby, buried below ground. "Don't tell me you came on foot," the courier told the mafia princess, as he joined her in his full presidential costume. "We're a long way from Mount Augustus." "But we're close to Optimate's tower," Livia replied with a sad smile. Not only did she look grim with the black circles around her eyes, but she also dressed the part. Her dark coat and austere clothes reminded Ryan of a young widow. "And I could only lose Matthias this way." "So Mr. See-Through stalked her too?" The glass manipulator had made increasingly frequent forays into Rust Town lately, though he never stayed long due to the land's interferences. Livia examined Ryan's new costume from head to toe. "I love the suit," she said, though she frowned at the hole in his bowler hat. "Did someone attack you?" "I had to put down a robot rebellion." Ryan shrugged. "I have a backup bowler hat in my car, but I'll wait for tomorrow before putting it on. I only wear that one for war." She chuckled, though her heart wasn't in it. The courier glanced at Augustus' daughter, noticing the red marks near her eyelids. She had wiped off tears not so long ago. "He told you, didn't he?" Ryan guessed. "Kitten. He told you the truth, about how he felt." Her face strained, telling him he had hit the mark. "Can we sit for a while, Ryan?" "Sure." They sat along the pier's edge, their feet dangling above the sea. Ryan said nothing, knowing Augustus Air wanted an ear to listen to. One that wasn't part of the family. Not even Fortuna. Livia put her hands on her lap, facing the distant sun. A faint breeze flowed from the west onto her face. She didn't say a word for a while, as she tried to express her feelings into words. "I went straight to Dynamis. Something I never dared to do, because it increases tensions between my family and the Monadas in my predictions. If I didn't know this wouldn't matter in the long term, I would never have dared." "Story of my life," Ryan replied. "I refused to leave until Felix would talk to me," Livia continued her tale. "My bodyguards and the security were within minutes of starting a firefight when he finally came down. He wasn't happy that I forced his hand, but he agreed to sit down and have a real talk." Ryan listened in respectful silence. I can see up to 6 futures at once, and I can switch them. My ability is always on, and sometimes it reacts to my emotional state. It shows me options based on what I want." Livia looked away, her eyes wandering to Dynamis and Il Miglior's twin towers. "I couldn't convince Felix to get back together with me willingly in any alternate world I saw. There were many where I could force him, yes. But none where he would return out of his own free will." She glanced back at the calm, peaceful sea, and the shadow of Ischia Island in the distance. It's not that we're over, Ryan. There was nothing between us in the first place. It was just decorum, and my own feelings blinding me to the truth. Whatever bond we shared, it's gone, and I can't get it back." "I'm sorry," Ryan said with a sigh. "I know it sounds cliché, but I understand. You've been there too." She looked at the courier sorrowfully. "I can feel it in your voice."
"Yeah."
Ryan slowly removed his mask and hat, putting them at his side. The warm breeze on his face felt good. "I've spent centuries looking for Len, because I loved her. And now that she remembers, while we still share a close bond, the intimacy we had is gone." "What happened?" "Her father happened," Ryan replied. "Just like Livia's ruined every chance she might have had with Felix. Nostalgia led me to New Rome. I longed for a simpler past, and He took a deep breath. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to have a friend back. But it's not the ending I'd hoped for. Livia gave him a glance full of compassion. Love is a sweet poison, isn't it? I don't regret tasting it though, Ryan replied with a genuine smile. All I wished for was someone to remember me. Someone with whom I could share my joys and burdens. Shorty agreed to help me carry some of the load, and I'm fine with that. Better than fine. Why are you still in New Rome, Ryan? She asked him. You came to this city to reconnect with your friend, and you did. Adam perished, and you could bury the bunker for good. Leave all of this mess behind. It wouldn't be the best ending, princess. It would be a good one. For you, at least. Would it be good for Felix? For Jamie, for Jasmine, for Yuki? Ryan marked a short pause. For you? The heiress looked somewhat embarrassed. Don't worry about me, Ryan, she said, I will make things right. A blatant lie. He could see it in her eyes. Livia expected to face more trouble down the line, and to carry the burden alone. Well, you're part of my Christmas list whether you like it or not, Ryan joked. And I'll ask you the same question. Why are you still in New Rome? Same reason as you, Livia replied, her eyes focusing on Ischia Island. Too many lives depend on it. If I leave, the throne will probably go to Bacchus or Mars, and nothing will change. It will just be more of the same. How far can you see into a simulation? Livia joined her hands, as if hesitating to reveal that secret. Eventually, she did though. A month or so if I truly focus. The predictions get increasingly unreliable the farther into the future I look. Her expression transformed into a grim scowl. Not far enough that I could learn about my father's cancer before it was too late. So she had seen how the world would turn out in the future. While the butterfly effect probably whisked possibilities away, seeing a world with Bacchus in charge of the Augusti must have scared her straight. Can I confess something, Ryan? You don't have to ask. I won't judge you. Livia's fingers fidgeted, as she mustered her courage. He could tell that she was about to admit something she never dared to confess to anyone else before. I don't really feel comfortable around others. Even Fortuna, or my family. I love them but, how to explain? You know them, but they don't know you, Ryan guessed her problem. She confirmed with a slow nod. You have the same problem? I lived lifetimes with some people across loops, only for them to barely know my name in the last one. I can process the realities I see at an accelerated rate, and I can't turn my power off. I've seen all the ways my loved ones can react to a stimulus, what they plan to do. I know everything about them, but I feel like an outside observer in my own life. The events I see happen to other MES. I didn't live these moments, I only watched them. Their respective powers built walls with others. Is that why you're telling me this? Ryan asked. Because you can't watch me, that our moments feel genuine? She chuckled. It plays into it, I believe. I feel the same, Ryan admitted. Honestly, I kinda hated you at first. I've grown so used to controlling every aspect of a loop, that a foreign force like you messing up with my plans. It felt maddening. But, well, I had forgotten that I liked surprises. It felt nice to talk with someone who understood the loneliness Ryan had suffered through all these years. While their powers might have been wildly different, they did face similar problems. Livia looked at him with an amused smile. If I piggyback on your power as you suggested in your messages, you will have even less mastery over what happens. Yes, but you said it yourself. Neither of us is getting what we want without cooperating with the other. The courier crossed his arms. So, if we gave you a map of your memories and a backup of Len's, would you go along with it? Livia's smile turned into a scowl. I don't think that will work, Ryan. I know myself. I will never accept having my thoughts overwritten voluntarily, especially not by Dynami's-made tech. From my old self's point of view, I can only rely on notes rather than personal experience. I will expect foul play. Can't you write a 15-page long warning you won't read anyway, like search engines? I'm more likely to assume someone tampered with my notes. I will find it more likely that you are a manipulative blue capable of interfering with my ability. I'm already very wary of people like Bacchus. Livia considered the matter thoughtfully. How much does the underdiver trust you? I see where this is going, Ryan said. We send your consciousness back in time, you keep a copy of Shorty's memories, and then I convince her past self to have her own overwritten. Would she accept? You knew each other for years, while we met days ago. She's more likely to go along with this plan than my other self. I don't know. Hopefully, Len would figure out a way to send more than one consciousness back in time and they wouldn't have to find out. I'll ask her permission first. It would feel a bit manipulative otherwise. You use your foreknowledge to get others to move the way you want to all the time, Livia argued. Len was a special case. We'll see with her. What about the other thing? Help you find a cure for the psycho condition? The Oracle seemed a lot less enthusiastic about that part. Ryan, these people tried to blow us all back to the Stone Age. The ones who wanted to are gone, and the rest, Ryan's thoughts turned to Acid Rain, Mongrel, Frank, even Saren. All these people were victims of their own powers. The rest deserve a second chance. And besides the meta, how many psychos were people who made a costly mistake, or victims of circumstances? Bloodstream, Jean Stephanie, Adam, and their kind had colored his view of psychos. But now that he had seen the other side of the fence, Ryan couldn't call a world where Acid Rain would remain a demented killer a perfect run. I gave them hope, Livia, the courier declared. I don't want to disappoint it. You will take it away when you turn back time again, Livia pointed out. I will make curing them part of my final loop, Ryan argued back. I will perfect the process through multiple loops, and make sure they get a better ending. Maybe they won't remember my promise, but I will. Livia hesitated for a full minute, joining her hands as she considered the proposal. If Ryan wasn't mistaken, she used her sight to try to see the possible consequences, and it seemed to mollify her resistance somewhat. All right, she said. But in return, I ask for two things. First, you will involve me in every step of the way. I don't want to help create something I might regret. That's fair. And second, her expression turned playful. Why do they keep calling you Mr. President? Ryan couldn't help but chuckle. You want me to declassify that secret? I'm curious, she admitted. I'm sure there's an interesting anecdote behind it. Ryan explained to Livia the details of his coup d'état, and her lips transformed into a grin. You force them to sing the Star-Spangled Banner every morning? Frank is a surprisingly good singer, but Mosquito, Ryan shuddered, the infernal buzzing noise echoing in his mind. If you didn't want to slap him before he sings, you will afterward. I wish I could do silly things like that, Livia admitted. Everyone around me walks on eggshells. Can't you force them to amuse you, jester style? Ryan asked. What's the point of having authority if you can't abuse it now and then? They fear displeasing me, but they dread my father's attention even more, Livia replied. Although I admit Fortuna and I had some interesting adventures when we were younger. Like what? We made wishes upon a star, and Fortuna asked for the star itself, Livia chuckled. A small meteorite fell in the garden. My father was livid. Her power is busted, Ryan complained. I know, Livia answered with a knowing smile, albeit somewhat nostalgic. Things were so much easier when we were children. Ryan glanced at Ischia Island in the distance. Before your parents started grooming you to take over? Livia answered with a sharp nod. I would appreciate it if you destroyed that island on your way out of New Rome. Once the Bliss factory goes down, I can finally start changing things for the better. Maybe even keep Narcinia away from Bacchus, if I play my cards right. You understand she will always remain the sticking point with the carnival? Ryan pointed out the obvious. And Bacchus is only part of the problem. Mars and Venus also push her into making more bliss against her will. Mars and Venus, I can manage, Livia explained. They're followers, so to say. Mars in particular chose to become my father's subordinate early and never wavered in his loyalty. He will only take responsibility for the family's empire if it is thrust upon his shoulders. If I inherit, these two will do as I say, even leave Narcinia and Fortuna alone to do as they wish. They won't like it, mind you. But they will obey. But not Bacchus? Livia shook her head. His obsession with bliss borders on religious zealotry. He believes he can contact God with that substance, and it trumps all other concerns. Not a god. An ultimate one. Even then, Ryan said, if you really want to spare your family from a deadly confrontation with Hargraves, we'll have to find a way to exfiltrate Narcinia from your father's grasp. Livia winced. I'm seeing Hargraves in my vision lately. Sunshine? Already? Where? Rust Town, she admitted. I believe he intends to attack you, and the odds increase with time. But the only reason Hargraves would appear so soon would be if he knew about the bunker. So that's why Safelight was so active lately, Ryan muttered out loud. How? Did Ryan's presence among the metagang cause Shroud to pay more attention to Rust Town? Or did the glass manipulator manage to interrogate former thralls of Psyshock with the necessary knowledge to piece it together? Perhaps he hadn't done so yet, but would in the following days. How long until the sunset? It is too early to tell yet, especially since you can make my prophecies wrong. Livia bit her lower lip. Something else has been blurring my visions lately. Of course. One of the plushies had breached containment and escaped the junkyard. If it was anything like with Eugene Henry, the creature would probably pollute her future sight. I see Dynamis attacking Rust Town too, Livia continued. Enrique leads them in most possibilities, but others, his elder brother takes the lead. If he does come, the city burns not long after. The flames of war consume everything. So Ryan's backup plan of abandoning the surface and bunkering down the way Hannafat Lecter did look doomed to fail. He had to go on the offensive. Well, I have a plan to take care of Dynamis, and secure Vulcan's help on the same occasion. Vulcan? Livia raised an eyebrow, smirking. Why choose a road so complicated? If you needed her help, you could have asked me.
Nah.
I know Vulcan. If you forced her to help, she would have ratted us out to Augustus out of petty revenge. If anything, Jasmine's irritability was one of the things Ryan found cute about her. She will only help reliably if someone goes along with her wishes first. Livia immediately picked on the implications. The two of you were close. Ryan avoided her gaze, staring at the sea. He still felt sore about losing Jasmine, his Jasmine.
Yeah.
We were. But now she's gone for good. Now that you can safeguard memories, why not repeat the loop where you formed a relationship? Livia suggested. Then you send her memories back. Ryan sighed. He had considered something like that. Before deciding against it, that kind of thinking led down the rabbit hole. Besides the fact she made me promise not to replace her, I cannot control your actions, so a perfect repeat is now beyond my reach. If I tried to recreate my Jasmine through various loops, I would probably obsess over every detail, and reboot if I find the result lacking. I'm afraid I'll start caring more about my idea of Jasmine, rather than the person. Much like how he had obsessed over Len, and what she represented to him. I see. Livia looked torn about Ryan's choice, but appeared to respect it. Why do you need her? We're in the process of figuring out how Mekran could enhance his lieutenant's powers. If I combine his tech with Jasmine's, you could boost your power, and perhaps bring more people across time. He could tell that the possibility greatly interested Livia. How will you proceed? Well, I'll go full supervillain, take over Dynami's Star Studios, and live stream Hector Manada's crimes for the world to see. Ryan explained his evil plan. I'll also chew the scenery, probably hold the city for ransom, and confront my archenemy Wardrobe in an epic battle. Or she will share the role with the panda. I haven't decided if I want my heroes exclusive. Livia's reaction was unlike anything Ryan expected. He thought she would laugh, show skepticism, pat him on the back and leave him to his fate. Instead, the Oracle took his explanations without a word, as she digested them. Livia opened her mouth to say something, hastily closed it, and then joined her hands together on her lap. A flash of hesitation briefly crossed her face before her expression turned shy, like a precocious child afraid to ask something stupid and suffer mockery afterward. Ryan squinted at Livia, reading her mind. You want to come? Can I? The Augusti princess pleaded with a sheepish smile. She looked so adorable at that moment, that Ryan couldn't deny her. Still, the idea of someone as proper and dignified as Livia participating in something so silly clashed with the idea he had of her. You're sure? You haven't said no, Livia said with a grin. You do realize the danger involved? Which is exactly why I want to come, Livia said. I will never have the opportunity to do something like this outside of a time loop, due to all the ways it could go wrong. If you worry about my father, I can wear a mask and stick to my time leap ability. Nobody else outside my family knows about its details. Ryan crossed his legs and slouched on the pier, regretting not to have brought his cat with him. Miss Augusti, do you truly have what it takes to be a supervillain? It's not just a question of power, but presentation. Style, charisma, screen presence. We'll need to find you a costume, and a fearsome name. Minerva won't cut it. I have an extensive wardrobe, Livia said before trying to think of a good alias. As for the name, how about timestamp? Ryan stared at her without a word. Time zone? Time out? Livia asked, growing more and more awkward with each new proposal. Her cheeks turned red at his continued silence. A clock? Why couldn't she see it? The perfect name, the one most appropriate for her power? One that oozed style and would transcend the realm of pop culture? The perfect household name, to go along with a power nobody could explain? Queen Crimson. The one and only. Isn't that a bit pedantic? Livia asked with a frown. Trust me, Ryan smirked while putting a comforting hand on her shoulder, it will do just fine. So? Len asked, as a blast door closed behind Ryan. Well, our Disney princess agreed to help with our cancer cure project, and to star in tomorrow's movie. The testing area reminded him of the interrogation chamber where he and Jasmine tested the power-boosting armor. A reinforced window separated a control room and its computers from an underground dome, where robotic arms manipulated a Dynami's-made knockoff elixir. I'll swap her with Rakshasa as our ace in the hole. Not the doll, you ruffian? Alchemo's voice echoed through loudspeakers. Why do you keep dragging her into your messes? Trust me, she'll do well. T had been his main choice of a getaway driver during his drug cartel phase. Besides, she accepted when I asked nicely. She is too nice to say no to you, you disgusting excuse of a bioform. Perhaps, but from Ryan's experience, the doll would enjoy the trip. She suppressed strong criminal tendencies. Anyway, how are things going with Mosquito? The synthesized, nutrient-rich blood does bolster his enhanced strength, as you suspected, Alchemo confirmed. Early results are promising, though the effect does not last long. 1 hour on average. 1 hour was a long time, if exploited to its fullest. Ryan intended to bring Frank, Sarin, and Acid Rain to Star Studio, but an additional heavy hitter would always help. The courier approached the window, standing next to Len. His best friend kept her arms crossed, observing the green knockoff beyond the glass with apprehension. She tried to keep her composure, but her true feelings were written all over her face. Shorty, I'll ask one last time. Ryan took a deep breath. Are you sure you want to do it? Or rather, do you want to watch it? I told you, Len said with a frown. I need to know, Riri. To get closure. I'm more worried it will open old wounds. Or that it will cause a dangerous reaction. I have incinerators ready, Alchemo said, for flamethrowers dangling from the testing ground ceiling. All pointed at the knockoff. If the worst comes to pass, I can send robots or call your black slime. Riri, if our hypothesis is true, then Dynamis didn't just capture my father. Len's worried expression turned into one of anger. They packaged him. Turned him into a product. Even if it's not him, I can't let that stand. It's inhuman. I hope we're wrong. But I want to be sure. And if we're right? Ryan asked the right question. If he's really inside Lab 66, what will you do? Let him out so he can kill again? Len didn't offer an answer. She had no idea herself. If you ask me, Braindead said, although nobody did, if you truly think we can cure psychos, then why not one more? If there was something left to cure. If Dynamis truly used Bloodstream to make knockoffs, then they kept him in storage for almost 4 years. Who knew what Dr. Tyranno did to the bloody slime? And truthfully, Ryan didn't want to help Bloodstream even if he was alive. He wanted the slime dead and buried. In any case, the testing would soon begin. A robotic arm dangled a pipette full of blood above the knockoff, while another opened the container. Len's blood. Preliminary tests showed no match between Mecran's knockoff elixirs and Dynamis, both achieved the same result through different methods. The bunker's robots hadn't yet managed to analyze Dynamis' substance, so Ryan suggested a more direct approach. If his theory about Bloodstream altering Len's blood to track her was correct, then it should react to the knockoff in some way. Subtle or obvious, a change should follow, and hidden cameras would film everything. Ryan's eyes focused on the green, swirling liquid inside the knockoff's glass flagon. Wyvern had served as this Hercules elixir's template. He wondered if the Draconic Knight in shining leotard would have participated in its creation, had she known how it was made. The robotic arm pressed the pipette, a single droplet falling from it. Ryan and Len held their breath, watching the liquid fall for a moment that seemed to stretch forever. The droplet hit the knockoff, and the elixir screamed. The knockoff's container exploded into a dozen shards, as its green content turned bloody red. The contents spilled all over the testing floor, bloating like cake paste in an oven. The minuscule amount of liquid grew, and grew, and grew as fast as Darkling when it devoured Adam. The shape of a twisted parody of a human face formed on the slime's surface, its deafening scream echoing through the reinforced window. A chill went down Ryan's spine, as he was brought back to his dark past. Back to the same terrible memories that night terror had awakened again, one loop ago. He could never forget that voice. Len let out a horrible scream of her own, not one of pain, but of pure fear and horror. The scream of a traumatized victim, living through a 4-year-old nightmare all the way again. Her skin turned even paler, her nails scratching her cheek. Len. Ryan immediately held his best friend in his arms, hugging her tight against his chest. Len. Calm down. I'm here. The howling slime crawled on the ground towards the windows, sensing Len, smelling its lost daughter like a bloodhound desperate for a warm meal. The flamethrowers activated, torching the testing room. Flames as hot as Leo's surface vaporized the blob to dust, its horrifying scream turning into death throes. Only ashes and silence remained. Ryan didn't know how long he held Len in his arms afterward. Her scream had turned to tears, her hands covering her face as if she could shield her gaze from the terrible truth. Her nails had dug deep into her cheeks to draw blood. She was so fragile in his hands, he thought she might break in half. The courier let her cry into his chest, his eyes staring at the elixir's ashes. A terrible thought crossed his mind, alongside the sheer magnitude of Hector Manada's crimes. How many people in New Rome had drunk a knockoff elixir? 81. Good morning, New Rome. Scratching Eugene Henry's ears, Ryan mentally rehearsed his villain speech. He had put on the war hat, and prepared for battle. Since Frank and the improved Mosquito were too big for the presidential van, the group instead switched to a light black truck and put the heavy hitters in the back. T drove with a bandit's hood covering her face, which made the android look like a hostage-taker. Saren sat at the front, while Ryan kept the second row of seats for himself.
Ah,
the doll said while she looked at the road. I feel nostalgic. It reminds me of the times we went out on picnics outside the farm. Except with more mayhem, Ryan added, his cat meowing on his lap. And property damage. This better be worth it, Saren said while typing on a tablet. Even with the bunker under our control, we're taking on dynamis. The Gov. No, we're putting big business back in its place, Ryan replied. If my plan works, and it will work, dynamis will be too busy tearing itself apart to target us. Besides, Hector's ultimatum ends today. Either we leave, or he does.
yeah.
I get it. His second-in-command marked a short pause, as she looked at the road. Ryan, that bloody thing on the video, it's inside all of us? Inside everyone who took a knockoff elixir. Which according to his calculations, covered around 10% of New Rome's population. Knockoffs cost a lot, but not as much as a house, and both Dynamis and Augustus made extensive use of the substance to bolster their forces. 1 in every 10 people they crossed on the street could become a bloodstream clone at any moment. So almost all the gang, Saren said. Whoever thought it was a good idea deserves to get shot. Tobacco companies kill half their clients, Ryan replied. Knowing Darth Manada, he probably thought the profit margin was worth the risk. They can't get away with it, T argued. That's monstrous. Agreed. Saren nodded sharply. And besides, they refused to pay us after all the risks we took fighting Augustus. Sweet revenge it is. Saren, darling, are the videos ready? Ryan asked. Yes, but Dynamis will probably take them down within minutes. They control the Dynanet and the airwaves. Most, but not all of them, Ryan said, as the truck stopped to pick up the crew's last member. She opened the door to the courier's left, and climbed inside the car. For her first villain outing, Livia had settled on something simple, yet elegant, a black lounge suit with a red shirt and necktie underneath, alongside a Daft Punk-inspired helmet with the same color scheme. The outfit, while unable to hide her feminine curves, gave her a stylish androgynous look. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan introduced his new sidekick. I present to you the one and only First Lady of our presidential regime, Queen Crimson. Greetings, Livia shyly introduced herself to the group. I'm honored to meet you all. Welcome, I'm the doll. T introduced herself warmly, while Saren let out a grunt. We're going to have a fun time, you'll see. The gynoid sounded disturbingly eager to participate in a criminal enterprise. Mr. President. Ryan turned his head, Frank glancing through the window separating the light truck's seats from its cargo. Are you a Mormon? No, though I will probably have to call myself a god at one point. He couldn't finish a villain run without one megalomaniacal speech or two. Why such a question, Agent Frank? You have the new and old first ladies in the same car, the giant explained. Unless one of them is an intern? I have only one wife, Agent Frank, Ryan said, looking into the giant's eyes. And her name is America. Well, the courier once had a rock star phase with all the debauchery it implied. By the loop's end, he had so many groupies, he didn't remember half of them and could no longer walk straight. However, mindless sex's novelty had quickly worn out. Ryan preferred an exclusive, intimate relationship with one person, something with a deeper connection than superficial lust. He was looking for a soulmate. The underdiver won't be joining us? Livia asked, a bit curious. Ryan's mood instantly worsened. No, she won't. After the disastrous knockoff test, Shorty had locked herself in her room and refused to leave it. She didn't let anyone inside, not even Ryan or Sarah. While the genius had loved her father, in the end, that relationship was an open wound that never healed. All the progress she had made in the last loop seemed to have been washed away by the fear and the pain. And Ryan could only help her if she let him in. I'm sorry, Livia said, upon sensing his unease. I didn't mean. Queen, I love your costume. T said at the front, trying to guide the conversation towards less awkward grounds. Especially the French techno style. Oh, thank you. Livia joined her gloved hands together, and though Ryan couldn't see her face beneath the helmet, he would have bet his hand that she looked embarrassed. Do you like it too, quick save? I can't diss anyone wearing a Dior suit, Ryan reassured Livia, Eugene Henry moving from his lap to the Auguste princess. See, even my cat approves. He only accepts the best. Is it wise to bring him? Livia asked, petting the feline while the truck moved towards Dynami's Star Studios. I know cats have 9 lives, but he will be in the middle of a war zone. I guarantee you that everything will happen as I have foreseen, Ryan said ominously, before giving her the Fisty Brothers to wear. Put them on, please. Gauntlets? Livia asked. What do they do? They turn people into donuts, the courier replied before checking the time. According to our schedule, we have roughly 1 hour before wardrobe and the others check in to do their cameos. We'll arrive right in time for the morning news. Soon, the truck reached the confines of Dynami's Star Studios. The park already buzzed with activity, an army of technicians and interns moving towards the cafeteria for their morning coffee shot. 2 guards lazily controlled cars trying to get past the security checkpoint, none of them wearing power armor. As Ryan learned from his previous visits, Dynamis didn't expect anyone to attack the place. Everyone put on their seatbelts? T asked, her hands tensing on the driving wheel as they approached the checkpoint. Ryan, subtle or loud? Loud. Was that even a question? The doll smashed the accelerator, and the truck rushed at the checkpoint like a bull at a matador. The guards jumped off the side of the road to dodge, as the Metagang's vehicle smashed through the security barrier. The vehicle continued its course through the parking lot at full speed, before abruptly stopping in front of a warehouse. Technicians watched, astonished, as the supervillain crew exited the car. Ryan carried Eugene Henry in his hands, Livia struggled to put Fisty over her gloves, the doll opened the truck's container to free its passengers, and Saren unleashed a mighty shockwave to the skies. This time, the studio's staff finally understood the danger and fled in panic. "Finally out," Mosquito said as he exited the truck's container alongside Frank. Having overfed on high-nutrient blood, the Bugman had almost doubled in size. The crimson flesh beneath his exoskeleton had turned green, his muscles swelling until they became almost grotesque. Ryan thought he should change his name to Beefcake. "That's the last time I share a ride with you, Frank." "Mosquito, dear, you protect the car, survey the area, and raise the alarm if someone tries to fly in," Ryan said. The doll grabbed a rocket launcher hidden beneath the seats and locked the truck. Time to dazzle New Rome. Saren blew up the warehouse's entrance with a shockwave, while Beefcake took flight and ran circles above the studio. Ryan walked into the hole first, like a boss, while his minions followed in regimented order. The group entered a reception hall, ignoring the terrified secretaries, interns, and workers too afraid to stop their advance. Most of the security guards weren't paid enough to fight a band of genomes, but one did dare to threaten Ryan with a gun. The courier froze time and disarmed him with one hand, using the other to carry his cat. Ryan eventually reached a door protected by a keycard lock, reading the words "News Studio" written on it. "Agent Frank," the president asked his trusty bodyguard. "Open the door." The Iron Giant immediately looked around, and quickly noticed a terrified technician with a keycard around his neck. Ryan quickly identified him as Kevin, one of the scriptwriters working on the Panda movie in the previous loop. The man had frozen in place, holding a steaming coffee cup in his hand. Frank lifted the scriptwriter by the pants, spilling the coffee all over the floor, and dangled him in front of the lock like a toy. The door opened upon registering the keycard. "After you, Mr. President," the giant said, as he dropped his victim onto the floor. From the brown spot on his pants, the scriptwriter had soiled himself. "Thank you," Ryan said while moving through the open door, only for Frank to walk through the walls around it as he followed. To each their own entrance. New Rome's news set was a wide circular room the size of an apartment, with half the walls covered by a large 3D screen. A well-lit anchor news desk faced two cameras, and a horde of low-wage slaves kept in eternal darkness. A handsome, brown-haired anchorman sat on a leather chair, having been ready to deliver the morning news when the Meta Gang invaded the set. "Everyone, hands behind your heads!" Saren snarled angrily, as T threatened the staff with her rocket launcher. The fearful screams didn't last long, replaced with cowering silence as Frank and the doll herded half a dozen technicians into a corner. The cameramen continued their work under Saren's surveillance. "I swear everything will be all right if you don't resist," the doll promised the hostages, even as she threatened them with a rocket launcher. "We don't want to hurt anyone." "There are hostages, don't coddle them," Saren said, as she hooked her tablet to a recording device. Livia stood in the background, too anxious to say anything. The Augusti princess didn't have much experience with field work. Ryan calmly approached the anchorman, and silently threatened his vital space. The man rose from his seat without a word and joined the other hostages, leaving the courier free to take over the chair. Eugene Henry meowed on his lap, looking at the cameras like a furred diva. "Do I look intimidating enough?" Ryan asked Livia, as he adjusted his suit. "If you could raise your hat a little, that would be perfect." Ryan followed her advice and basked in the spotlight. "We're live, boss," Saren said, forcing a cameraman to focus on Ryan's mask. The president silently glanced at the various technicians, noticing a young teen with brown hair and acne. "You're an intern?" he asked her. "You?" "Yes, sir." "Bring me coffee. With milk and sugar." The young teen immediately fled out of the room to fulfill his order, though Ryan wasn't sure she would return. In any case, the courier scratched his cat's ears and introduced himself to the camera. "Good morning, America. While it's saddening you won't hear the weather report, spoiler warning, go to the beach today. Oh boy, will you get something better. I am Mr. President, and this is my message. He was born for this. I am Ryan Romano, leader of the free world, conqueror of Monaco, and democratically elected chairman of the Meta Gang. Yes, the same psycho band that took over that dump of a northern district. We are currently taking Star Studios hostage until our demands are fulfilled. Don't try to take us off the airwaves, because if anyone tries..." Ryan put his mini A-bomb on the news desk. "I call it the North Korea Special," he explained in simple terms. "Using highly sophisticated genius technology too complicated for you to understand, this device can induce a thermonuclear detonation that will burn the whole city to ashes. If I were you, I would pack your stuff and leave for Milan." Ryan could hardly see the hostages' faces with all the lights aimed at him, but he heard some of them gasping in shock.
Yeah.
Who would be desperate enough to go to Milan? The intern returned with the coffee and put it at the desk's edge, as far away from Ryan as possible. "Thank you, slave," the president said. "You shall be spared." "Can I go now?" the intern asked, sweating profusely. "You can go to the photocopier." Ryan crushed her hopes of a better life, before focusing back on the camera. He noticed Livia pushing the intern towards the other hostages, but didn't pay much attention. "Now, perhaps you're wondering why this is happening, so we compiled a short movie." The screen behind his desk broadcast his recorded talk with Hector Manata. Well, of course, the courier had edited the film to make it fit within a 5 minutes length, but such were the rules of sensational journalism. He would probably release a director's cut one day. "No more knockoffs," Hector Manata's voice echoed behind Ryan. "My agreement was with your predecessors, and their demise changes everything. Certainly we can continue where they left off. Your people didn't deliver, so why should I honor my side of the bargain? Then I should reveal what's inside your knockoffs. I'm sure your people will love buying a psycho in a can. Do you have any proof?" The video switched to the disastrous elixir test, of Bloodstream's horrifying essence turning the overpriced drink into a screaming slime. Livia let out a gasp of horror at the sight, while the hostages started to whisper between themselves. "They're taking down the video almost as soon as I put it on a website," Saren said while typing on her tablet, "but it still makes thousands of views each time I upload it." The president nodded, knowing once something was on the net, it would remain there forever. "I will personally perform the kids' show version, and since I do not believe in CGI." Ryan put 3 plasticine figurines on the desk, representing Hector Manata, Augustus, and Big Fat Adam. "Say hello to stop motion." An awkward silence followed. Tough crowd. Ryan, who had a long experience with this kind of performance, did the voiceover. "Hey, I'm Mob Zeus," he raised the Augustus figurine, while doing his best impersonation of the tyrant. "And I'm evil." Livia chuckled, and Eugene Henry left Ryan's lap to land on the desk. The cat started playing with the A-bomb like a ball of yarn, to everyone's horror, and Ryan briefly interrupted his performance to glance at his pet. "Good kitty," he said, scratching Eugene Henry's back and feeding on the audience's tears of despair. "You like my A-bomb, huh? You like it, do you?" His cat meowed in response, and Ryan returned to his show. "I am Hector, and I am so jealous of Augustus. He shines too much." The courier played Manata's figurine, before moving Adam's. Each time, he imitated the original's voice. "I am Adam. I am so fat, that last time I used a weighing machine, it let out death throes. I want to help, but I am poor. Take my money, friendly whale." I beg of you. Hector answered. Nobody laughed at the spectacle, all eyes focusing on Eugene Henry instead. By now the cat was rolling the A-bomb near the intern's coffee cup, showing his royal behind to the camera. Ryan put a fourth figurine on the desk, representing PSYSPY. He carried an oversized knife of clay in his tentacle. I am Psyshock, the president voiced the Brainjackers figurine, before moving it behind Adams, and I am a traitor. Mr. President, turn around. Frank panicked, as he relived his previous charge's murder. Turn around. The Psyshock figurine stabbed Adams in the back, the madman collapsing. The whole building trembled, as Frank punched the ground in grief. And that's where I come in, the hand of injustice. Ryan smashed the Psyshock figurine, turning it to paste. Then he raised his plasticine-covered fist. I have been disrespected. Humiliated. Unpaid. But never broken. They called me mad, but I will show them. I will show them all. I am taking all of New Rome hostage, until Dynamis pays me the ransom I deserve. The outrageous sum of one. He's gonna say it. The doll gasped. 1. Ryan winked at the camera, and his countless fans behind it. $1 million. Ryan winked at the camera, and his countless fans behind it. $1 million. The tense silence was broken by Livia's giggling and the doll's sobs of happiness. He dared, the android said. He dared. Morons dare it all, that's how you recognize them, Saren replied. Boss, you do know American dollars cost almost as much as collection stamps nowadays? You wanted them to pay us in pesos, perhaps? Ryan deadpanned. You would need all of Mexico to pay $1 million, Frank said, spitting on America's oldest enemy. In any case, the cavalry is coming to the rescue, Saren said, showing Ryan her tablet's screen. Someone was live streaming Wyvern flying through New Rome's skies in human form, aiming straight for Star Studios. They can't silence the truth, the president went on a rant before the camera. We shall not give up in the face of Intimai. Bleep. Ryan glanced at Eugene Henry, the cat having pushed the A-bomb's big button and triggered the countdown. Well. The president looked back at the camera, and smiled behind his mask. That's all folks. 82, Corporate Raid. It was said that the show must go on, no matter what. And so, little Goranik attempted to catch the wild princess. Ryan continued his play, having a three-headed dragon plasticine figurine pursue that of a pink princess. After running out of video material to humiliate Dynamis with, the courier had started to improvise. But she ran too fast for his tiny legs, and poor Goranik had forgotten he could fly. Nobody paid attention to his Shakespearean play, except Frank, whom the groundbreaking plot captivated. Everyone else instead focused on the inactive nuclear device on the news desk. You should have taken a dog, boss, Saren said, glaring at Eugene Henry. The cat knew he had sinned, so he tried to look cute to avoid punishment. Unfortunately for him, Hazmat Girl didn't have any heart to soften. I understand why the Chinese ate them. Come on, I disarmed the countdown, Ryan said, though he had to freeze time for it. He abandoned his play to scratch his cat's ears and reassure him. You're sorry you scared them, huh? You didn't want to kill them all, it was an accident. T cleared her throat. It was just a vocal effect, since as an android she didn't need to breathe. Ryan, IT. Mr. President, Ryan corrected her. You're my friend, doll, but we're on TV right now. Mr. President, while I love animals, I believe you are spoiling your cat rotten.
Good.
His master replied with a deep dark voice, before noticing Livia nervously approaching him. Yes? His new sidekick began to whisper in his ear. I'm seeing Wyvern attacking Mosquito and an Il Miglior team besieging the building alongside the private security. Is the panda among them? Ryan asked, suddenly worried. Who? Livia asked, apparently never having taken notes on the mighty man-bear. The panda, the chosen one, Ryan explained, loud enough for the hostage and TV viewers to hear. The only genome whose power trumps mine. Our long-awaited duel has been foretold by precogs. Livia giggled behind her helmet. No, I don't think so, she whispered, only to turn serious. But Felix is among them, and a few of my alternate selves die from glass shards to the neck. Ugh, so the carnival did intend to target them this time around. The courier learned enough about dynamis to predict their movements, but he couldn't say the same for Hargraves. Did the carnival ally with the Monada brothers like in the previous timeline? Or did they remain free agents for now? We'll make sure nothing happens to Felix, Ryan whispered back too low for others to listen, before hamming it up. With our combined power, Queen Crimson, we will rule all of New Rome. Start ruling your stupid cat and then we'll see about the city, Saren said, unimpressed. In any case, we're returning home. What about the hostages? T asked, almost hopeful. Do we take them with us? Ryan shrugged his shoulders. I realized it was a bit redundant to keep a dozen people hostage when we have a nuclear device to threaten the city with. And I do not think we have enough space in the truck, Livia pointed out the obvious.
Aww,
the doll said, lowering her weapon and allowing the hostages to breathe. I was starting to like them. T had known them for half an hour, and she already developed Lima syndrome? She was too soft for the job. The group exited the Star Studios warehouse 1 minute afterward, with Saren carrying the A-bomb and Frank the plasticine figurines. Ryan walked at the front, holding Eugene Henry in his arms like a diabolical mastermind on a stroll. No sooner did they pass the warehouse's doors than a shockwave almost caused them to trip up. The courier raised his eyes and watched Mosquito wrestling with a fully transformed wyvern up in the skies. The courier remembered that they fought in an early loop, with the dragon lady squashing the psycho like a bug. But now that Mosquito had overfed, he more than held his own. The flying beefcake punched wyvern so hard that it caused windows in the vicinity to crack. The blow sent the dragon tumbling backward, but she quickly corrected her descent. She retaliated with her breath, Mosquito fleeing out of the path at astonishing speed. While the two titans duked it out in the skies, the group prepared to return to their truck, only to find it surrounded by a dozen private security members in black riot gear. Multiple laser rifles pointed at Ryan and his men, while one wise soldier targeted the president's crotch. None of them opened fire though. As Livia warned, they also had a few genomes with them. Adam Kitty, who didn't carry throwable weapons yet, Reload, that cheap knockoff, who at least had the decency of bringing a lightsaber, and Ryan's favorite hero in the world. Hi, Wardrobe. The courier warmly greeted his future rival. We finally meet in the flesh. Hi, nice to meet you too, quick save. Wardrobe waved a hand at the group. This time she cosplayed as an FBI hostage negotiator, with a megaphone in hand. I loved your stop-motion play. Wardrobe, please don't encourage that madman, Adam Kitten said, hands raised. He looked like a cat ready to pounce on mice and eager to finally stretch his legs. Livia tensed at the sight of her ex-boyfriend, but wisely remained silent. Sorry. Wardrobe apologized before raising her megaphone. Please surrender, you're surrounded. And you're outgunned. Saren replied while raising the A-bomb, Wyvern and Mosquito's duel causing more shockwaves. Back off. A few private security members raised their rifles at Miss Gashole, but none dared to pull the trigger. I'm Mr. President now, Ryan said, scratching his cat behind the ears. Frank stood proudly behind his master, while the doll pointed her rocket launcher at Reload. You should know, of all people. After all, Wardrobe, you created me. I created you, she asked with a frown, before studying his costume in depth. Her face paled, upon recognizing the ensemble's perfect harmony of colors, the authority of the necktie, the softness of the gloves, the savagery of the bowler hat. It was you who asked for the costume. Wardrobe, you know this guy? Asked Reload, his hands tightening around his weapon. I designed his costume. Wardrobe paled in horror at the terrible truth. But I didn't know someone would use it for evil. It has skulls on the socks. Felix snarled, pointing a finger at Ryan's boots. What did you expect? That's right, Wardrobe, Ryan said, his voice as deep as the darkest abyss. By creating this cashmere suit, you sowed the seeds of your own nemesis. A grim darkness born of your shining light. My nemesis? Emotion broke through Wardrobe's face, as her wish for a flashy supervillain archenemy was granted. I have a secret nemesis? Yes, you do. Ryan extended one hand at her, holding Eugene Henry with the other. Join me, Wardrobe. Become my archenemy, every day of the week. Together, nothing can stop our brand. We will build a multi-billion-euro franchise, greater than even Star Wars. We will flood the market with merchandise, and we will rule the box office. Only through me, can you achieve the popularity you crave? Yes, yes. Oh, Mr. President, I accept your offer. Wardrobe surrendered to the lure of a long-term exclusive rivalry. We'll be fighting forever. Good, how about we schedule our first fight tomorrow? Would tomorrow be all right? Ryan took a few steps forward, not waiting for an answer. I have a very busy agenda. Doomsday weapons won't build themselves. Reload moved in the president's path, weapon raised. You're not going anywhere, you maniac. Is it me, or do you really think you can actually stop us? Ryan channeled his inner villain, while Saren dangled the A-bomb threateningly. Don't force me to assert my authority. Be wary, Reload, he can stop time for an unknown duration, Adam Cat warned his fellow hero. He's also probably a genius of some kind from the bomb, but we don't know his specialty yet. A genius? Ryan blinked behind his mask. Wait, you think I'm a psycho with 2 powers? Adam Kitten snorted. Dude, you hold an entire city hostage with a nuclear device and a band of mutants. Either you're a psycho, or you're just psycho. Your reputation for mental instability makes a lot more sense now, Reload added. Frank took a step, ignoring the laser rifles pointed at him. Mr. President, do you want me to clear the area? They're going to do that on their own, or I'm pressing the button, Saren froze, as the weapon suddenly vanished from her hand. Huh? I've got it. Wardrobe rejoiced, having quickly changed her costume. Her clothes had transformed into that of a French gentleman with a monocle, a long cloak, and a top hat from which she had drawn the A-bomb. Arsène Lupin? Ryan immediately protested, someone is getting choked for TH. Reload immediately leaped at the courier with his laser blade raised. However, Frank swiftly grabbed his leg in midair with one hand, and splattered him on the ground like a club. The poor violet genome immediately regenerated, and cut off his own leg before Frank could kill him again. Minions, dispose of these annoyances, without touching the truck. Ryan ordered, as the private security opened fire. The courier froze time to sidestep the barrage, while Livia and Saren took refuge behind Frank. The lasers failed to pierce the doll's reinforced metal body, though they burned off parts of the artificial skin. But leave me the young kitty. I don't have a cat theme. Felix snarled, attempting to touch Ryan with his naked hand. The president gracefully sidestepped to dodge the blow, and then a second. Adam Cat's hands furiously tried to reach for the courier's chest, but Ryan had time and experience on his side. The doll and Saren had engaged the private security in a firefight, answering the lasers with rockets and shockwaves. The same mook that threatened Ryan's ultimate weapon hit Saren's shoulder, forcing her to cover the spot with a hand to avoid leaking out gas. Meanwhile, Livia positioned herself behind Frank as he attempted to catch Reload, using the Iron Giant as a shield against the private security's lasers. She seemed to be looking for someone she couldn't see. Wardrobe backed off, wisely trying to keep the A-bomb away from the battle, and Wyvern above smashed Mosquito against the warehouse's roof. "Oh, well, for a second, I thought I might need to use my hands," Ryan taunted Felix. "I guess my legs will be enough. I'll show you hands." Adam Kitten all but leaped at his foe, but the courier simply dodged and tripped him. The young hero crashed headfirst into the ground, much to his fury and humiliation. "It is useless to resist," Ryan said, as he loomed threateningly over his former sidekick. Though he had no intention of harming his friend, someone else thought otherwise. All windows in the area, including the light trucks, exploded at once. Glass shards flew at Ryan, and he felt a slight shiver down his SPI. Ryan stood with his hat against his chest. The firefight briefly died out, as everyone tried to gather their thoughts. Livia had activated her power, and skipped time forward. The Augusti princess stood near the truck, with a visible and bloodied shroud lying on the ground. The vehicle's container looked slightly damaged too. Livia had punched the invisible vigilante with Fisty, causing him to hit the container and lose focus. As for the others, the doll patched Saren's wound, both of them hiding behind Frank. The Colossus had finally caught Reload, and seemed ready to crush his back against his knee. Adam Kitten was struggling to get Eugene Henry off his face, the cat clawing angrily at his cheeks. Ryan had probably thrown his pet at the hero in the skip time, but he couldn't tell for sure. Damn it, was that how it felt for others to fight Quick Save? That empty feeling of missing all the real action? No wonder the courier's foes hated him. Quick Save. Ryan raised his eyes, and witnessed Wyvern flying over his head. Dragon Mom had regained her human form, while Mosquito was slowly deflating back to his original size, embedded in the warehouse's front wall. "Surrender," Wyvern warned, her face straining with fury. "I won't hesitate to use lethal force." "You know what's better than one A-bomb, Dragon Mom?" Ryan plunged his hand into his bowler hat, and quickly brought out a tiny metal sphere before Wyvern could descend upon him. Another bomb. Wyvern froze in midair, even as all private security members within earshot aimed at Ryan. "Wardrobe, steal the bee." "If you want me to juggle," Ryan performed an illusion trick to swiftly bring a third bomb out of his jacket, making it look as if he had duplicated the sphere. "I've got a third." Thank Mekrin for his matter replicator. It made it incredibly easy to manufacture nuclear devices. Almost too easy. And as Ryan had guessed, while Wardrobe immediately changed back her costume to Arsène Lupin's, she didn't attempt to steal both bombs from under his nose. Her power had limits. Still, one private security agent attempted to shoot the courier's arm to make him drop one of his nuclear devices. Ryan simply froze time, and reappeared a few feet away.
Nah,
he said, his fingers brushing his weapon's buttons. "You try anything, I stop time, and we play Dr. Strangelove." Wyvern frowned, though she didn't make a move. "You won't dare. I literally let my cat do it on live television." Ryan pointed out, his thumbs brushing against the buttons. "Wanna bet?" For a tense and agonizing minute, nobody dared to move. Well, with the exception of Eugene Henry, who finished clawing Adam Cat's face to run back to his master. All eyes looked at Ryan, fearing he would follow through with his threat. Wyvern's jaw clenched so hard the courier thought she might destroy her own teeth, and moved her hand to her ear. The geniuses in Dynami's HQ probably confirmed the bombs as genuine through an earplug, and Dragon Mom didn't dare to call out Ryan's bluff. As I thought, Ryan said, smugly rubbing his victory into his foe's face. You see right here? That's the difference between us. One gets to be the goddamn USA, the other gets to be Afghanistan. Mr. President, didn't we sign treaties on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons? Frank asked, still holding a helpless reload within his hands. The violet genome attempted to stab the Iron Giant with his laser blade, but inflicted minor to no damage. Yes, but nobody respects them, Ryan replied, before glancing at his men. Ladies and gentlemen, pack your things, we're going home. Frank, get Mosquito. Frank immediately tossed reload over his shoulder, his strength sending the poor violet genome flying above the warehouse, and then helped the wounded Mosquito hop back on the ground. Mosquito complained as Frank helped carry him, blood gushing from his wounds. The Bugman had regained his original size. Damn, she hits hard, pain hurts so much. You're not going to get away with this, Wyvern said, simmering with anger. While Wardrobe had turned into a nurse to help the wounded, Adam Cat glared at the meta gang, claw marks all over his face. The disguised Livia did her best to avoid looking at him, perhaps out of shame. Au contraire, I think I will get away with it and the money, Ryan said, as he opened the truck's door for Livia. The Auguste princess grabbed Eugene Henry and stepped inside the vehicle, imitated by Saren. Though hopefully, your boss won't get away with stuffing a body snatcher into an overpriced product. You think I believe any of this? Dragon Mom tried to sound confident. Ryan could sense the doubt creeping in her voice. That I can believe any of this? Darling, Ryan asked T, as she helped the wounded Mosquito and Frank climb into the truck's container. Give our dragon friend the proof. The blood? T opened a hidden compartment inside her arm, much to everyone's shock, and then tossed a small syringe at Wyvern. Over here. The superhero caught the container with one hand, frowning upon seeing a small quantity of blood inside. What is this? A few drops of the underdiver's blood. Though Dynamis already took samples and a DNA scan, Ryan doubted the company shared them with its shining hero. Wyvern wouldn't have signed with the megacorporation if she knew about its dirty secret. Apply it to any knockoff elixir, and you'll see the truth for yourself. I would suggest asking for Devilry's help though. If that stuff touches you, you're dead. Wyvern said nothing, even as Ryan prepared to climb into the truck last. The courier sent one last glance at the wounded Shroud on his way. I'm surprised you decided to fight us, he told the glass manipulator. I mean, you went so far to hunt down all of Bloodstream's clones. I thought you would go after Dynamis first. We failed. The courier frowned behind his mask. We didn't, stop it, Shroud rasped, struggling for breath. Livia's blow probably damaged a lung. We just delayed. Delayed what? Bloodstream's return? Ryan asked with a frown, but the glass manipulator was in no shape to answer. The courier briefly wondered if they should bring the vigilante back to the bunker for medical attention, but it would only encourage Leo to attack them immediately. Dynamis would take care of him, if only because he tried to help them. A few seconds later, Ryan sat inside the truck as the doll drove it away, glancing through the broken windows. Nobody dared to stop them as they left Star Studios. So? Ryan asked his troop. Who's up for French? Livia let out a breath of relief, letting go of her stress. That was amazing, she said, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. I couldn't tell how the situation would turn out at any point. Is it always like this with you? Unfortunately, Saren groaned, covering the bandaged gash in her hazmat suit. Sometimes, there's fire, T added. We should do it more often. Livia rested her head against the seat, Eugene Henry sleeping on her lap. Ryan could understand her reaction. Much like him, she had forgotten how much she liked surprises. Amazing. When they reached the security checkpoint to enter Rust Town, the doll abruptly stopped the vehicle and let out a scream of horror. What's happening? Ryan instantly tensed and looked out the window, only to face a vision of horror. The private security checkpoint had turned dead silent. Literally. 24 Dynami's guards had been hung over an open archway leading into Rust Town, the ropes made of their own intestines. The number 885 had been written with blood on the floor beneath them in a macabre display. Holy, Livia put her hands on her helmet upon seeing this ghastly spectacle, reflexively trying to cover her mouth in horror. Eugene Henry, meanwhile, glanced at the bodies with lazy disdain. How could I not see? You couldn't see it, Ryan said, as he fearfully realized who had perpetrated this terrible deed. The reason why this run is already doomed, the courier replied, pointing his finger at the letters written on each corpse's chest. Together, they formed a single, ominous sentence. Happy birthday! Ryan looked into the rearview mirror, and watched two pointed ears slowly rise behind him.